Free will is an interesting topic for a number of reasons. I think while it has a lot of implications for the individual and how we live our lives and how we conceptualize ourselves, it also plays out on the societal level. We've built a society based on traditional ideas of free will where you are 100% responsible for your actions. You can change anything about yourself if you have enough willpower, and a number of other things along those lines. Over the past couple of years, I've been, I think, pretty well convinced that for the most part, we don't have free will. And I think that depends on a case-by-case basis. There are individuals out there who, I'm not blaming anyone, I'm just trying to describe things as they are. But there are people out there who don't care about these things and aren't oriented to looking inwards to consider their motives and their actions and plan in the long term. And there are other people that are. And so there's a range, I believe, of free will across people. In general, I think it has to do with level of intelligence, maybe self-awareness, and even just an overall effort to control yourself or to act decisively in the principles and beliefs that you have, or to even reflect on those and to decide based on reason and evidence what is true or not, and not based on what you were taught growing up or what your inborn personality type might preconceive, lead you to believe. Oddly enough, Jordan Peterson is partially responsible for convincing me or leading me to the conclusion that a lot of people don't have free will, even myself. I've just learned to live with it and to be observant of it. Because he talks a lot about personality types. And your personality affects everything. It affects your political beliefs, how you interact with people, risk-taking, pretty much everything. And that is given to you from your genetics. I mean, babies start to show their personality types and their ways of behaving, early on before they've had time to, choose how to act, to choose how to be. Even your environment, the way you grow up, that's mostly outside of your control. So things that happen to you while you're growing up can mold you into a certain way. And since that isn't decided by you, I put that into an argument for lack of free will, because it is not your choice how you've grown up. But yeah, so Jordan Peterson obviously helped convince me of this position. Sam Harris and some others, and even just observing people out there and myself. A lot of my actions and my first impulses are not from, let's say, my top mind. They're from underneath. They're from layers underneath. I forget what the top layer of the brain is. Doesn't matter. And so personally, I have a conflict over there being a free will and not being a free will. A lot of my political philosophy is oriented around the idea of a free will, and that it's important to respect every individual's, will, their desire to act, as long as it's peaceful. And so there's a inherent hesitation on my part to just brush that away, especially since even on a cultural level, I've been conditioned to think that way. Interestingly, I think accepting that I have a nature that I can't change, and therefore a decent amount of will that is not mine, or of my mind that I can't control, that I can only observe, has helped me grow. When I was younger, up until my late 20s, very shy, very introverted. And I think the shyness was born a lot out of uh, a shame of seeing extroverts operating out in the world and having a good time and enjoying it. And I thought that's what I should be, or what I should aspire to. And so there's a shame of, oh man, I don't want to be like, I want to be like those other people, but when I try to engage in it, it's tiring. I find it difficult. I feel out of place. But in accepting my nature and what I can't control, I have been able to adjust on the fly my behavior. I can act most of the time in the way that I want to. I can be, I don't have to be outgoing all the time. I can act how I want to for the majority of the time. But when the time comes, I can go out and be social. I can engage with people and spend that energy. And then afterwards, I could just go back to being what I want. And there's a freedom in allowing yourself to act how you want. And then that gives you capital, social capital, to engage in activities you'd rather not, or engage in activities that you feel are draining, if we're going to go along the extroverted, introverted axis of personality types. Politically and societally, I'm not sure what to think about the free will thing. Our whole court system, the way we judge, personal interactions, many things are based on the idea that people are fully in control of themselves. They are fully responsible for their actions, which is something I feel very deeply and grounds much of my philosophy, much of what I believe. But if that's not the case, what does that mean? What does that mean for criminal responsibility? What does that mean about interpersonal relationships? Should we break off friendships with people or our connections to family if they treat us poorly? Well, if they can't control their behavior, and if it's something outside of their control, like, what's the conclusion? Do you let those things slide? And maybe that's partly my shortcoming. I don't think I've delved far enough into the things that Sam Harris has to say and other people who know more about this, about what the repercussions might be. But that's one of the things that holds me back from fully accepting that there's no such thing as free will, or going all the way with that idea, because I don't know what actions and what sort of society is born out of those ideas, because ideas matter. I can, maybe the compromise I make with myself is that definitely, let's say, I'm willing to say that a great deal of the decisions that people make in our society, in the world at large, are mostly, if not completely, outside of people's free will or ability to choose rationally. But practically, maybe it's best to organize the world in a way that respects the idea of that. Because if people aren't responsible for their actions, well, then they don't have, true body autonomy, and then we can kind of do things to anybody for, let's say, more frivolous reasons than typical. Because if we're all sort of these biological robots just on these on a track through life, what's to say that we can't intervene in people's lives to make decisions for them and to make them act in a way that is better for society? I think it's very true that science, the reason and the evidence, does point to the reality that we don't have free will. But I think there's also plenty of reason and evidence to say that acting as if we do have free will is the source of the greatest good that we've achieved in the world. So while the arguments about whether or not we have free will are intense and they're big and they're important, I think they can exist. That's the middle ground. I think they can exist at the same time. All right, thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.